This show is sponsored by BetterHelp. October 10th is World Mental Health Day, and this year we're saying thank you, therapist. BetterHelp therapists have helped over 5 million people worldwide on their mental health journeys. That's millions of stories, millions of journeys. And behind every one is a therapist who showed up, listened, and helped someone take a step forward. Moments in therapy, like the right question, a safe space to cry, or a small win, can change lives. This World Mental Health Day, BetterHelp is honoring those connections and the therapists who made them possible. I am eternally thankful for 2 different therapists who got me through the most difficult times in my life. And the one I talked to just randomly because I think it's good to have a therapist. If you have not tried therapy, even if you're not in crisis, even if you're not going through something, even if you don't think you need it, therapy, like Paris, is always a good idea. The right therapist can change everything for the better. BetterHelp therapists work according to a strict code of conduct and are fully licensed in the United States. With over 30,000 therapists, BetterHelp is the world's largest online therapy platform, having served over 5 million people globally. And it works, with an average rating of 4.9 out of 5 for a live session, based on 1.7 million client reviews. I love that. I love how easy BetterHelp makes it to access good therapy. This World Mental Health Day, we're celebrating the therapists who've helped millions of people take a step forward. If you're ready to find the right therapist for you, BetterHelp can help you start that journey. Our listeners get 10% off their first month at betterhelp.com/ratchet. That's BetterHelp, HELP.com/ratchet.
This podcast is supported by FX's English Teacher. Last year's critically acclaimed series returns to follow Evan, Gwen, and Marky as they vie for their students' divided attention. See why Cosmopolitan called its premiere season a masterclass of comedy, while Glamour raved it's the year's funniest and most heartwarming new comedy series. FX's English Teacher, all new Thursdays on FX. All episodes now streaming on Hulu.
Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, and those who don't identify as either, you are listening to Ratchet and Respectable. I told y'all last week I recorded the episode early because it was CBC week and I was going gallivanting. I did gallivant. I moved downtown. I was crashing at the Line Hotel all last week I started going out on Tuesday. I moved to the hotel on Wednesday. I stayed until Sunday, but I literally went out. That's not true. Tuesday to Sunday, but I stayed in on Thursday. I did too much on Tuesday and Wednesday. I needed to break up the gallivanting, and it wasn't like a big night. I mean, there was stuff going on, but it wasn't anything that I just felt like I had to be at. And then I was out again all day Friday, all day Saturday. I was supposed to go home on Sunday, but then there was another event at the British Embassy. And I was like, I live for an embassy event. I'd never been to the British Embassy before. It was lovely. When we walked up, they had like a small orchestra, like they were playing like Bridgerton type music. And I was like, this is amazing. Then there was a go-go band. It's like, this is great. I had a great CBC. Like I did less than I usually do. I only went to 3 to 4 events a day as opposed to 6, but it was like quality over quantity. I didn't go to the big dinner, unfortunately. Kamala Harris was the keynote. She was also the keynote last year, which I was insistent upon being at the dinner. Like I just had to be in the room. Even if I wasn't inside like the quote unquote gold circle inside the ropes, I was like, I need to be in the room because I was like, I want to see like my future president speak. And then, that did not come to pass. I didn't even realize she was speaking this year, like literally until, 20 minutes before the gala started. I didn't even try to get tickets this year. Kamala Harris was the keynote for the Phoenix Awards, the big gala. Shout out to Angela Rye. She was awarded this year. Angela's been on the podcast. I've known Angela forever. She has put in the work. She 110% deserves her award. And then Joteka Edie, she also received an award. She's the founder of Win with Black Women. Do you remember, I want to say like the day after, maybe 48 hours after Kamala announced that she was running, Joteka did this Zoom with Black women. I don't remember how many Black women were on the call, but it was like tens of thousands of women. And they raised tens of thousands of dollars for Kamala Harris's new campaign in a matter of hours. And then several other groups started mimicking the framework for Joteka's calls. We're raising like tons and tons of money for Kamala Harris. If I remember, she raised, was it like $1 billion for her campaign? But Joteka's organization was the kickoff for all of that. Congratulations to her. She's a really good friend of the family. Like she and my dad, I think they play bid whist together. I don't know. I don't know. Every time I see her, she reminds me of some card game they play. I'm really, really happy for her because she's getting a lot of attention now because of her work with Kamala Harris. She's done the work, not so quietly. In the political circle, she's super well known, but like everyone knows who she is now. Like I know neither one of them do it for the fame or the acclaim, but it's really nice to be seen, to be recognized for the toiling, because that's what it is sometimes, the toil, the work. Also heard my governor was there. I really should have gone to the ball this year. Wes Moore and my first lady, I've never met either one of them, which is a personal pain point for me. I really want to meet my governor and my first lady. I'm putting that out into the atmosphere. CBC was kind of the time to make it happen, but I didn't. Went to a great bunch for the collective pack and Jasmine Crockett, Congresswoman. I'm talking like Jasmine, just like the homie. Congresswoman Jasmine Crockett was there. She was all over CBC, speaking all over the place. But I was really excited to see her in person. I know I gave her hell right before the State of the Union. She did some like TikTok type video, like dancing in the hallway to like some Kendrick thing. And I was like, this is not the time. Focus, focus, focus. But I do ride with her, especially right now. She's very much under siege. I don't even know if it's worth bringing up because the woman who said it is such like a Looney Tune. Wig has this minion that hangs around with him. She calls herself a journalist. To my knowledge, she has no actual training in journalism or communications, but she calls herself an independent journalist. Really, she's just an agitator with a microphone and a camera that she likes to shove in people's faces and ask them inciting questions. And then she says wild shit on social media. Somehow she has like wiggled herself into Wig's inner circle. She wrote something about Jasmine Crockett the other day. She was mocking her, kind of how Newsom does with Trump, but Newsom does a much better job at it. People don't know what to do with Jasmine Crockett. Like but she's in her 40s, but she Black and well cared for Black. So she kind of looks like mid-30s tops. I think people think she's like a baby when she's like technically middle age, which is a painful thing to say. I'm slightly older than Jasmine. She is very intelligent. She does her due diligence, but she can also give you an old nasty read when necessary. She's real sweet when you sweet to her. But when you're not sweet to her, you see another side to her. She matches energy. She has been called many things, many terrible things. But one of them is ghetto. The other one is pretending to be ghetto. A couple months ago, it was an accusation that Jasmine Crockett is like cosplaying as ghetto. The gotcha was she has gone to private elite schools, if not full-on prep or boarding schools, her entire life. And then she went to a very expensive liberal arts college. She comes from a staunchly middle-class family. And they're like, so why is she out here, cosplaying as ghetto? And I was like, I don't know where you get ghetto from. Like, she speaks the King's English quite well. She's been educated at the best schools and universities in the country. She's literally a member of Congress. How are you getting ghetto from that? The stereotypical things that we associate with ghetto. I mean, is she outside at the airport with a bonnet on? What exactly is ghetto about her? Every time you see the woman, she got a suit. She doesn't walk around with all her pieces and bits hanging about. What exactly is ghetto about her? Is the Black? Like, is that what it is? Now, there's some ghetto members of Congress. That MTG chick, the bad built blonde, who's going through some sort of identity crisis right now. Like, she's really hung up on like these Epstein files and is like going rogue from MAGA, which I was like, I mean, fucking finally, but this is not a segment about her. But I say all that to say, this Laura Loomer girl, and I call her girl because like I'm significantly older than her. She's all of 32. She has been driving city miles of her life. I thought she was a good late 50s. Like, she's all Botoxed up and such. Like, I thought, maybe the face had fallen. She had picked it up and they just did too much filler. But I was like, ma'am, it's all of 32 and all fucked in the face. But she's been doing this thing online where she's trying to make fun, I guess, of Jasmine Crockett. And she's been writing in 90s Ebonics. Black Wall Street Times has the full quote. She called Jasmine Crockett, quote, a ghetto Black bitch. I was like, are you serious right now? Is this where we are? And then also she called her a DEI Shaniqua. Like, really, full 90s stereotypes. I mean, the same stereotypes about Black folks been around forever and a day, but they usually get like a refresher. The Shaniqua stereotype is like a good 35 years old, but she used it. To my knowledge, Jasmine has not responded to her, and I don't think it's worth doing so. Jasmine responding gives the crazy ish that she's doing legitimacy as opposed to her just being like a nut job with like a big platform saying crazy shit for attention. So I'm glad she hasn't said anything. I mean, and people have been dragging, rightfully so, this woman all over the internet for her comments and her bad ebonics. Oh, the Black Wall Street Times notes Laura Loomer has twice run and failed for Congress and is known for her provocative stunts and spreading conspiracy theories. She made a name for herself working as an independent journalist and has been banned on multiple social media sites for not following policies against hate speech and disinformation. Womp. Oh, this talks about her cozying up with Trump. He's praised her as, quote, a free spirit, saying, I like her. And he's excited because of the fact that she's, quote, and unquote, a patriot. It also notes she has a long history of using racist language against prominent Black women, including Kamala Harris, Letitia James, and a late Congresswoman, Sheila Jackson Lee. As I'm recording this episode, I don't know if it's calmed down yet. Cardi, Nicki, Ice Spice is in it, and Cardi apologized to Lotto for bringing her in it because she was like, I actually like you, my bad. And then Cardi's sister, Hennessy, and JT from City Girls are all in like a massive war, if you will, but like Twitter war, tough typing, not like actual fighting. Because like Cardi's like a million months pregnant. Cardi is now Barney and Nicki is Cocaine Barbie. Hennessy is saying JT's man kept trying to holler at her. JT was like, you think you're special because you're Spanish. It's gotten ugly, as it always does. I tried to follow some of it and I was like, my brain doesn't have this capacity. I want to be like, I'm too old for this shit. But like, again, like Nicki's in her 40s. It's not me talking about young people shit. But my question is like, Nicki, why are you in this shit? Because it's been going on since last night. At one point last night, Cardi tweeted back to Nicki and she was like, hey, you were constantly comparing yourself to me and I'm not one of your peers. Your first album came out when I was in high school. It was low-key age shaming, but also truth. And I was like, Nicki, I need you to act like, because you claim queen. I need you to act like the queen that you claim to be. You going back and forth like this. I'm not getting into the who started it and who ended it and any of that, but I'm just like, I'm like, you going back and forth with folks that you claim are beneath you. Why? Lori Harvey voice. Oh, speaking of Cardi, she did GlobalCitizen over the weekend. Pause. I need people who organize East Coast events, especially, to get some coordination together. GlobalCitizen and CBC Weekend should not be happening at the same time. There's too much overlap in the people who want to attend both events. I wanted to go to GlobalCitizen, but I still wanted to go to GlobalCitizen. I've actually never been to one in this country. That's not the point. The point is, ever since I went to the one in Ghana where they had Usher, I want to go to GlobalCitizen. And it was the same time as the UN. And I was like, I mean, don't the Congressional Black Caucus, like all those political people, wouldn't they also have some interest in what's going on at the UN? Like these events need to be better coordinated. Like UN and GlobalCitizen makes sense, the whole global thing. But I was like, they're competing with what's going on in DC. But Cardi performed at GlobalCitizen. I haven't seen the whole performance. The snippets that I saw were really good. And then she had her family with her backstage. There are pictures of her and Wave and Culture and Blossom. And also like Tyler, who looked like one of Cardi's kids. There's like this really awkward picture that they were all taking together. Cardi is doing like a regular family photo. And then Tyler, she's like doing the most. Like she's trying to like show her ass and like bite her finger. And she keeps doing all these poses. And I was like, girl, just stand there and take the damn picture. It's a family photo. She young. She new. She want to be seen. She probably just excited to meet Cardi. She was probably junior high. The same way Cardi said to Nicki, she was probably junior high, baby freshman when Cardi came out. Like, that was probably very exciting for her. Might not be the first time they met. I don't know. She acted like it was. It's like, ma'am, just down to a 10. It's okay. Down to a 10. Down to a 10. Oh, other big announcements. Sunday night, the NFL announced that Bad Bunny would be the performer for the 2026 Super Bowl. I'm giddy about this. Not because I can name you one Bad Bunny song, I only know who Bad Bunny is because the nail salon I used to go to in LA, like, almost exclusively played Bad Bunny videos. Until I watched a video all the way through and saw, like, the little notes at the end, like, naming the artist and the song, I was under the impression that Bad Bunny was a woman. I did not know. I think of bunnies as feminine. I thought Bad Bunny was, like, some new rapper chick that I wasn't aware of, and then I asked my mom, I was like, "Mommy, do you know who Bad Bunny is?" And she was like, "Of course I do." And I said, "How do you know who Bad Bunny is?" And this is after the Super Bowl announcement. So I thought she would be like, he's performing at the Super Bowl. And she was like, "He used to date that Kardashian girl." And I was like, "Huh." She meant the Jenner girl, Kendall. I guess they dated for a while. I didn't even know that. And I was like, "Oh, okay." I call him Mr. Bunny. There was some red carpet that nobody thought he was going to show up to. And everybody was really excited that he was there. And the photographers trying to get his attention were like, "Mr. Bunny, Mr. Bunny, Mr. Bunny." I'm excited. So, I mean, for a couple reasons. I'm happy for Puerto Rico. I'm happy for Latinos. But also, I'm excited because, like, of how pissed off that this will make half the country. You know which half I'm talking about. They are livid. They're like, "We've lost the Super Bowl." And I'm like, was it a battle for the Super Bowl? They were like, "We haven't had one of our performers at the Super Bowl in years." Yeah, because your performers are dry. I'm excited. There were rumors, big rumors, that Jay-Z was supposed to perform for the Super Bowl, and I was actually really, really, really excited about that. I know in some spaces that Jay-Z is persona non grata, but I came up on hold. That man held us down, I mean, at the time of the song, 6 summers, but more like 10. He deserves a Super Bowl stage, like, over deserves, I think. The other thing about Bad Bunny is he had notorious is not the right word. Victoriously, I think is better. Refused to perform in the continental US because of the ICE raids, unless he does features. His music is all in Spanish. So, the people who attend his concerts are largely Spanish speakers. According to the Supreme Court, that is a valid reason for ICE or authorities or whoever to stop people and question them about their citizenship. He was like, "Nah, I'm not hosting concerts in the United States because I feel like that would put my core fan base at risk." He did a residency in Puerto Rico, which this should not need to be said, but apparently does. People are like, only Americans should be performing at the Super Bowl. He's from Puerto Rico. He's an American citizen. That didn't tie together for a whole lot of people. I feel like people should have learned this in, I don't know, like geography. Puerto Rico is a U.S. territory. They had that really bad storm. It was Wig's first time in office, and he went to Puerto Rico and was like throwing paper towels at people. Horrendous. The reason he was there is because Puerto Rico is a U.S. territory. It is part of the United States. People born in Puerto Rico, Puerto Ricans, are American citizens. So, yes, even though Mr. Bunny only performs in Spanish, even though Mr. Bunny is quote and unquote Spanish, I know Latinos be sick of Black people calling him Spanish. Oh my God. Although he is Latino, he is also a born and bred American citizen. His first language is Spanish and still American citizen. So the argument that like only Americans should perform for the Super Bowl because it's an American event, yeah, he's American. The number of people I saw online talking about these foreigners and send him back to Puerto Rico. You could send him back and then he could just pull out his blue passport and come right back to the mainland because American citizen. I hate people sometimes. He did this residency down in Puerto Rico. He's a huge artist. He sold I think I read 115 million albums worldwide. And then for 3 years in a row, he was the top streaming Spotify artist. And I'm talking about like billions of streams, more streams for those years than Taylor Swift. Why wouldn't an American citizen who is one of the top selling artists in the world perform for the Super Bowl? I love it. This is when he gained my respect. I'm reading this on USA Today. His 31-day Puerto Rico residency was a love letter to the island and its people. It served as a respite for fans during a time when social media feeds were overwhelmed with headlines about mass deportations of Latinos in the United States. His shows felt like a space for fans and the people of Puerto Rico to sing, dance, unwind, and bask in their cultural pride. And this type of residency in Puerto Rico is something that had never been done before. I'm trying to find the numbers, like the finances that he brought to Puerto Rico. 600,000 attendees over the course of the residency, generated an estimated $733 million for Puerto Rico. He put on for his people. I respect that. I deeply respect that. A lot of people have been like, hey, I don't get it. You wouldn't perform in America because of the ICE raid. You wanted to protect your audience. You wanted to stand in defiance of the ICE raids. So how is it you refuse to perform in America and then you decide to perform at the Super Bowl, which is like the biggest stage in America and like a totally, completely American event? This is a disconnect. And I was like, is it? And I have nothing invested in defending him. I'm just like, it's two entirely different things. Like the audience for the Super Bowl, the in-person attendees for the Super Bowl are largely not people who are going to be targeted by ICE. I mean, kind of, because ICE goes after a little bit of everybody these days. But I mean, keep it a buck. The vast majority of people who are attending the Super Bowl are middle-aged white men, because that's who can afford the tickets. But him performing at the Super Bowl, his biggest fans can watch from the comfort of their homes around the world without having to worry about ICE running up on them when they're just trying to sing some songs in Spanish. I'm just saying. I just hope in these very fraught times, it's a very small thing, but I think it's significant. I hope the Latinos of the world realize that, like, Black folks are not their enemy. Black people, by and large, have celebrated this. Black people have not been like, oh, why they gonna be having this Spanish music, blah, blah, blah. Black people are like, I don't know what they saying, but, they got a beat. I'm gonna tune in. I'm gonna do a little two-step. Black people are like, oh, we can learn some Spanish. We got till February, so we can learn what he's talking about. We can understand the songs. Black folks don't have any real beef with Latinos like that. We see Latinos catching hell right now, and we're either, damn, we tried to tell you, or damn, that's fucked up. We've been there. They coming for us again. All this ICE rounding up people, tackling folks, separating families. I was like, oh, America's repeating itself. People be like, oh, this is not the America that I know. How can we do this? This is who you've always been. We rounded up Black folks on the continent of Africa, put them on ships, shipped them over here, sold folks off like cattle, separated families, sold folks downriver, ain't think twice about it. Slave catchers, all that shit that was depicted on Underground, like this ain't new. This ain't new. This is what you do. But I'm happy for Bad Bunny. I'm happy he got the Super Bowl. I can't wait to tune in. I ain't gonna understand. I mean, my Spanish is actually halfway decent. It's my French that's pure trash. This show is sponsored by BetterHelp. October 10th is World Mental Health Day, and this year we're saying thank you, therapist. BetterHelp therapists have helped over 5 million people worldwide on their mental health journeys. That's millions of stories, millions of journeys. And behind every one is a therapist who showed up, listened, and helped someone take a step forward. Moments in therapy, like the right question, a safe space to cry, or a small win, can change lives. This World Mental Health Day, BetterHelp is honoring those connections and the therapists who made them possible. I am eternally thankful for 2 different therapists who got me through the most difficult times in my life. And the one I talked to just randomly because I think it's good to have a therapist. If you have not tried therapy, even if you're not in crisis, even if you're not going through something, even if you don't think you need it, therapy, like Paris, is always a good idea. The right therapist can change everything for the better. BetterHelp therapists work according to a strict code of conduct and are fully licensed in the United States. With over 30,000 therapists, BetterHelp is the world's largest online therapy platform, having served over 5 million people globally. And it works, with an average rating of 4.9 out of 5 for a live session, based on 1.7 million client reviews. I love that. I love how easy BetterHelp makes it to access good therapy. This World Mental Health Day, we're celebrating the therapists who've helped millions of people take a step forward. If you're ready to find the right therapist for you, BetterHelp can help you start that journey. Our listeners get 10% off their first month at betterhelp.com/ratchet. That's BetterHelp, HELP.com/ratchet.
This episode is brought to you by 20th Century Studios' new film, Springsteen, Deliver Me From Nowhere, starring Golden Globe winner Jeremy Allen White and Academy Award nominee Jeremy Strong. Scott Cooper, the director of the Academy Award-winning movie Crazy Heart, brings you the story of the most pivotal chapter in the life of an icon. Springsteen, Deliver Me From Nowhere. Only in theaters October 24th. Get your tickets now.
What else do we have on this list? Oh, Jimmy Kimmel is back. I think last time I recorded, because I recorded on Monday, Kimmel was coming back on that Tuesday. So he came back. His ratings had actually dipped before the cancellation. They weren't abysmal, but they had gone down from his peak. Over 6 million people tuned in to his return. So he kind of quadrupled his numbers. And then also his opening monologue on YouTube, it was at 22 million last time I checked. And also the 6 million people that tuned in, that was still with a bunch of stations, including DC, not airing Kimmel. One of the distributors had held out. They were insisting that Kimmel make a quote unquote meaningful donation to Charlie Kirk's organization, and then also give a formal apology to the family. And essentially Kimmel was like, nah. Pause. Have you been seeing these clips of his wife? She took over her deceased husband's podcast. I'm not a widow, obviously. I've not seen my husband murdered in HD. I don't know what that feeling is like. Far be it for me to tell anyone how to grieve. And to additionally also, this lady is on here acting like her husband didn't get murdered in cold blood. Like, has it been 2 weeks? She's just giddy and chatting away without a care in the world. People throw around the word tragedy for some things, and I'm like, that's not really a tragedy. My contractor's quitting was unfortunate, but it's not like a tragedy. Your husband, your spouse, the father of your children, suddenly dead? Like, that's some traumatic shit. Erica Kirk is out here unbothered. I was more distraught about the contractors quitting than Erica Kirk is about her husband being murdered in HD. She's got all these new plans. She's talking about rolling out. She's found some old plans, ideas that her husband wanted to get off the ground, and she's going to execute them. She found some old video footage that she's going to chop up and share. Like, she's just rolling right about. And I was like, ma'am, like, your husband was just murdered. I know some people like to throw themselves into work, but you were like a stay-at-home mom, I thought. Like, I thought that was like his whole thing. Like, women stay home and raise the kids because that's their role. They don't have a place in business. And now you're taking over the business. And she got like 3 degrees. For all that shit he was talking about, people don't need college and women shouldn't be in business and their places in the home. You went and got yourself one of the most educated women in America. I mean, she might have been the brains behind the operation the whole time. I don't know. But she's giving very like Serena Joy. It's weird. It's real fucking weird. That was not the point. What was the point? We did a sidebar. Erica, contractors, Kobe. Oh, yes, Kimmel. Kimmel's opening monologue. I know it was over a week ago, but there's 2 things I need to address. I thought it was a great opening monologue. I thought for the most part, it seemed they let him be him and say what he wanted to say. Although there were like 2 instances where I was like, you laying it on a little thick, ain't you, Jimmy? Ain't you, Jimmy? I mean, he clowned the network at the end, and he was like, they wanted me to read you this statement, like, reinstate your Disney Plus or your Hulu account. Something like 1.7 million people canceled their Hulu or Disney Plus accounts after they pulled Kimmel off the air. That's why they got his ass back on so quick, because they lost $3 billion between the cancellations and the stock dropping. They were like, oh, no, we got to get him back. He explained that, people took it as he was, making fun of the death of a 31-year-old man, that absolutely was not the case. And his voice cracked when he said that. And I was like, for real? Okay. And then also when he talked about Erica Kirk, she got on stage at the memorial, the one with the fireworks and the fighter jets. She got on stage at the memorial and she said that she forgives the person that murdered her husband because that's what her husband would want, God and forgiveness and all that other stuff. And he got choked up when he said that. And I was like, really? Okay. It seemed like he was putting on a little extra, like his voice cracked, but like no tears fell or anything. You trying to keep your job. They paying you something like $16 million a year. Like, I get it, bruh. You want to keep your platform. You want to keep your paycheck. You got mortgages and cars and kids in school. Like, I get it. I get it. He just, he laid that part on a little thick. But I did appreciate he did take some digs at the network and at Wig. I've only seen one other monologue since then, but he seems to be back to his old self. He's hammering Wig pretty hard, as he should. Speaking of Wig, I'm not going into this because I can't care. I have to stop caring. By the time you hear this episode, there may or may not be a government shutdown. I do know that Wig et al., MAGA, whoever, are accusing Democrats, left liberals, whatever, of shutting down the government. The accusation, and the inaccurate accusation, is that Democrats want $1.3 trillion for free health care for illegal aliens. And because MAGA won't pay for free health care for illegal aliens, that's why the Democrats won't give them the votes. And that's why the government is shutting down. So anyone who's losing services, anyone who's inconvenienced, they want to blame the Democrats for this. In fact, this is just not fucking true. No matter how many times MAGA people want to repeat it. Wig has tweeted about this on Truth Social. He says the Democrats want illegal aliens, many of them violent criminals, to receive free health care. Untrue. What the Democrats are actually wanting is, and I'm reading this on CNN, enhanced federal subsidies for Obamacare, Affordable Care Act coverage. CNN notes that there was beefed up assistance via Obamacare, which was enacted as part of a COVID-19 rescue package in 2021. This is under the Biden administration. This extra assistance is expected to expire at the end of the year. And if it does, premiums for Obamacare policies in 2026 would skyrocket by more than 75%. That's what the core issue is. It's not about illegal immigrants. It's about actual Americans being able to have health coverage. Ugh, they just lie all the time and make stupid AI videos. But the Democrats are being blamed to the point that when you log on to the sites, the official sites of certain government agencies, like the official, like HUD.gov, some announcement comes up saying that people will be losing their access to whatever because Democrats are refusing to negotiate and are forcing a shutdown of the government. And I was like, this is insane. I'm, again, recording this on Tuesday. We're fresh off the... Remember, I don't know if we had a chance to talk about this. Maybe I was waiting to see what happened, so I didn't bring it up. But Drunk Pete, Department of War, Jesus. He summoned all the top brass of the military from around the world on short notice to meet at, was it Quantico? To have an in-person meet so he could give them essentially a pep talk. Like, everyone was trying to figure out, like, well, what could he possibly have to say that is so important that you're pulling people off their posts thousands of miles away and spending all the money to fly them in here to have this in-person discussion. It must be something of profound importance. And essentially, it was like a 40-minute pep talk about his new direction for the military. No more DEI, no woke. No more quote unquote special treatment for women. He said something about like men in dresses. And I was like, when in the military were there men in dresses? Like, when did this happen? Some of it was like, nigga, what? And then other parts of it were like straight up dangerous. He wants to get rid of the way people complain. I'm reading this on USA Today. Pete told the group, no more frivolous complaints, no more anonymous complaints, no more repeat complaints, no more smearing reputations. He also wants to allow, when people go to basic training, he wants the drill sergeants to be able to hit the recruits. And I was like, for what? Many people have pointed out that this has been banned since somewhere around the Vietnam era. I'm scrolling down. Oh, fitness tests. He doesn't want to see any, quote, fat admirals and generals in the halls of the Pentagon. No more beards, long hair, superficial individual expression. He's going to make everybody undergo a physical fitness test and conform to height and weight standards twice a year. Also, he got a lot of fucking nerve. Like, you're literally addressing 4-star generals and you were in like the National Guard? I think the highest rank he ever got was like major. But this man, whose previous job before becoming the Secretary of Defense and overseeing the entire United States military, was a former Fox News anchor. USA Today notes that he, quote, attained a lower rank during his military service than any of his guests in attendance. Critics called the gathering a waste of taxpayer dollars and dangerous to national security. Look, I wasn't in the military. I'm never going to be in the military. I don't really know much about the military. I watched Saving Private Ryan maybe twice. What's the Spike Lee movie? The one with Chadwick? I watched that. I just know, just maybe from being in DC, maybe from watching Designated Survivor. It was on Netflix for a long time. I think it still might be there. Like, gathering all the top brass of anything in one room all at the same time is just not a good idea. Like, if something were to happen, not saying that anything should, you got to be mindful of that right now. Just gathering all the top officials in one place at the same time, should somebody so choose, especially with America and our guns problem. There have been how many shootings since Charlie Kirk was killed, including the day he was killed? There was one literally the day he was killed. People keep saying it's not the guns, but it is the guns. We know we have a gun problem, even though America, for whatever reason, because they don't give a fuck, chooses not to address it. I mean, that unfortunately is what it is. We know that there's a gun problem. Gathering a whole bunch of people together, all the top brass, all in one spot, is just never a good idea. They did that dumb shit for Charlie Kirk's memorial, too. Like the president, the vice president, Pete, a whole bunch of other people all sitting up in there paying their respects. I'm like, yo, if somebody was to blow up that stadium, everybody's taken out. Some people might think that that's a good idea. I'm not advocating for it. It's like a thing that, people genuinely think about, like, don't wipe out a whole bloodline or a whole, upper echelon of government. But apparently the head of the Department of War, it's not a consideration for him. Oh, last but not least about Pete. He got up in front of them generals and gave this long ass speech. And at the end, he got himself all riled up or whatever. He thought he hit all his marks, and he stood there, literally standing there waiting for applause that never came. And you could see his face fall. You ever see those, it used to be like this TikTok challenge. I want the money, give me the money, something like that. And it'd be like a family. The kid would be like, give me my money. And then everybody would be like, yay. And then the mom would be like, give me my money. And everybody would be like, yay. And then the brother would be like, give me my money. And everybody would be like, yay. Like, to make a whole bunch of noise, yay. And then the dad would be like, okay, give me my money. And then he would look all hurt and shit because nobody would laugh and it would be total silence. Like, some people would complete crash out because they would feel embarrassed or set up. Or Pete was like, give me my money. And the generals just sat there. So 2 things, right? Either everyone in the room thought he was a fucking idiot and they made a collective decision not to respond to him and just sit there and give him blank face. Bad. Also bad, because there is no good here. There's a protocol among the generals. They sit, they listen, they take orders, but they don't give feedback and applause and all of that. Pete is not a military dude. He's a Fox News host. Like, he served. He's not career military. He doesn't know, clearly, all the ins and outs. He's not one of them, even though he's leading them, which is a huge fucking issue. Either they wasn't really feeling him, or he's absolutely fucking clueless about military protocol. But he sat there like, he waited for his cheer, his yay, and they just nothing. They gave him nothing. It was delicious to watch. Eric Adams, the disgraced mayor of New York City, who was indicted last year, and then his indictment suddenly went away after Trump was involved. He's been campaigning to continue on as the mayor of New York City. He has dropped out of the race abruptly. He said at one point, like, never would he ever. And then, like, over the weekend, he was like, fuck it, I'm out. Which, he was running a half-ass campaign. Like, I see Cuomo all over the place. I see Mandami all over the place. And mind you, I don't live in New York. I would rarely see ish with Eric Adams. Like, he would just be chilling with, like, random people, like, posted up on his porch talking to Amber Rose. But he's out. And nevertheless, Mandami is still expected to win, which I hope he does. People are terrified, and by people, I mean MAGA, are terrified of this man winning. And I was like, he hasn't done anything yet. All he's done so far is make promises and talk about a plan. He hasn't done shit. Nevertheless, Wig has threatened to withhold, I'm reading this on Newsweek, threatened to withhold federal funding for New York City if Zohran Mandami was to win the mayoral election. He said, quote, he's going to have problems with Washington like no mayor in the history of our once great city. Remember, he needs the money from me as president in order to fulfill all his fake communist promises. Communist? It's socialist, not communist. He won't be getting any of it, it being the money. So what's the point of voting for him? And I was like, is this not like election fraud? This is like election fraud. Like every single day, this man does something that doesn't even rise to like a tenth of the scandal of Watergate. Every single day. Every single day. I didn't even talk about, because it's too overwhelming, about he went on after Pete when they talked about the generals and just basically like threatened to wage war on like all these American cities, New York being one of them, LA being one. I think he just sent the National Guard to Portland. I read earlier he was trying to go into New Orleans and Baton Rouge. Like just, do you hear me banging on the table? I'm out of words. I don't know. This is crazy. I need to say that out loud. This is crazy. This is crazy. This is crazy. We need to move on to another topic. Diddy's Day of Reckoning is upon us, October 3rd, which is Friday. Again, I'm recording this on Tuesday. I may need to do a bonus episode on Friday. I thought I might be driving up to New York, but maybe not. I've been doing snippets. I mean, okay, I did one. I do snippets on my social media sometimes when I don't have time to do a full podcast episode, when I just need to like say something real quick and just like shoot it off. So like we'll probably have to do one of those for Diddy, depending on what the sentencing looks like. So Diddy is being sentenced on October 3rd. His team is asking for time served. The prosecution, U.S. Attorney's Office, is asking for, I think, 11 and a half years. I'm looking at the official filing document right now. It's 11 years and 3 months. The filing document is 164 pages. We will not be reading it. The prosecution is making the case for the 135 months. They said throughout this case and over the course of a 7-week trial, this court has seen extensive evidence demonstrating the defendant's criminal conduct perpetrated across more than a decade. It said at trial, the defendant largely conceded his conduct, the violence, domestic abuse, drug use and distribution, and bribery. The defendant will not be punished for any crimes of which he was acquitted, of course, but punishment for his crimes of conviction must take into account the manner in which he committed them. His crimes of conviction are serious and have warranted sentences over 10 years in multiple cases for defendants who, like Sean Combs, engaged in violence and put others in fear. Consistent with those cases and based on the corroborated evidence presented at trial, this court should impose a sentence of no less than 135 months imprisonment. A substantial term of imprisonment is also needed in this case because the defendant is unrepentant. Incredibly, while the defendant conceded his acts of violence and abuse throughout the trial, he now argues that his victims should shoulder the blame. The defendant tries to recast decades of abuse as simply the function of mutually toxic relationships. But there is nothing mutual about a relationship where one person holds all the power and the other ends up bloodied and bruised. They talk about how bad off Cassie was during the relationship. She still has nightmares about the defendant's conceded physical abuse, which lasted for more than a decade and left her with permanent scars all over her body. Ventura asked the court to impose a sentence that considers, quote, the many lives that the defendant upended with his abuse and control. We also have Cassie's letter to the judge as well. They talked about Jane. They note that the prosecution presented evidence from Jane that included a note that she wrote to herself about how she felt violated and was tormented by how the defendant had placed and paid all of these harmful men on me and risked my health every single time for 2.5 years. Remember I told you I did little bonus on social media? And then I would be doing those from time to time when it's like a big story, but I don't have time to sit down and do a big podcast. The little bonus was the character letter that Carisha wrote on Diddy's behalf to really reduce his sentencing. It's some bird shit. Do I still have it? I think I saved the recording. Yeah, I do. Here you go. Me, 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 me. Me, 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 me. Dear Your Honor, my name is Carisha Brown Lee. I'm writing this letter because I believe it's important for the court to know the side of Sean that isn't always seen or spoken about. One of my most meaningful memories was when he took me to my first Met Gala. Beyond all of that, I've seen him give back to his community over and over again. In 2022, we fed the homeless together on Thanksgiving. In my personal experience, Sean is not a danger or threat to the community. We talking about the same Sean, the one that just got off trial? And even his lawyers was like, yeah, he does a lot of drugs and he beats people, but he ain't no like sex trafficker though. Sorry, almost done. He is a man of God. I truly believe that he belongs at home with his family, the people who mean the most to him. Judge, that's a good man. Thank you, Carisha Brown Lee. And then also, additionally, do you remember Deontay Nash? He was one of the people who testified. He was Cassie's stylist. He was real quippy on the stand. One thing that I remember about him and several people who used to work for Diddy in whatever capacity, at the end of their testimony, the defense would always ask them, how do you feel about Diddy? Do you have a relationship with him? And almost every single one of them said that they had warm feelings about Diddy, or at best, they didn't feel anything at all. If I remember Deontay Nash's answer at the end, they asked him how he felt about Diddy, and he was like, it's really just not in me to like hate anybody. Like, I don't feel no ways about it. We good. It's kind of something flippant like that. Deontay Nash has been one of the most vocal people against Diddy getting out of jail. So he also wrote a letter, not a character statement. He wrote to the judge asking for no leniency when Diddy is sentenced on Friday. We have the letter in full. He says, "Dear Judge, thank you for the opportunity to share these thoughts. I write with great respect for the court and the difficult decisions it must weigh. Mr. Combs' attempt to secure release before his scheduled sentencing, that happened last week. We didn't talk about it on here, but essentially Diddy had his lawyers submit for an acquittal, to which the judge was like, no. Like, no. Were you in the same trial I was in? No. It demonstrates a troubling lack of accountability and a continued pattern of manipulation. The thought that Mr. Combs does not believe he deserves jail time is both disturbing and frightening. It underscores the depth of his lack of accountability and the danger he poses. The fact that Mr. Combs believes that because he has harmed people he claimed to love or called friends, he somehow deserves leniency is outrageous. That sense of entitlement makes his actions even more sickening. Mr. Combs continues to treat this process as negotiable, as though he is merely managing a legal inconvenience rather than confronting the consequences of federal crimes. His efforts to preempt the court's process showed not only a lack of respect for the justice system, but also a refusal to acknowledge the severity of his actions. Rather than allow the legal process to proceed in good faith, he is focused on tactical maneuvers meant to bypass scrutiny and maintain control, soliciting letters of support, crafting PR statements, and attempting to manipulate public sentiment. He continues, his behavior has left a long trail of victims, many of whom still live in fear. This is not the story of one or two isolated incidents. This is the story of hundreds, possibly thousands of people whose lives have been scarred by his unchecked power and brutality. Beyond legal concerns, I want the court to understand the very real lived impact of Mr. Combs' abuse. This man harassed everyone around us, including friends and business associates, so relentlessly that people no longer wanted to work with us or even spend time with us. The home he held me in against my will was my own. The keys and phone he stole were possessions I earned through years of hard work. He robbed me not only of safety, but of dignity. He has openly declared to his victims that he does not respect or care about the legal system. If he does not respect the court should not extend him any leniency. I do this not just for myself, but for every mother, father, child, grandparent, sister, brother, boyfriend, husband, wife, friend, artist, intern, employee, and assistant who sacrificed for a man who only abused them in return. I have watched people take trains, move across the country, leave their families, and dedicate themselves fully, only to be mistreated, exploited, and silenced. This is a lot. I'm not going to continue to read the whole thing. I'll read this part. True change cannot exist without acknowledging the harm one has caused. Claiming to have changed while continuing to defend the very behavior that led to incarceration is not accountability. Real transformation is consistent, honest, and uncomfortable. It does not depend on who is watching or what outcome is desired. I do not expect him to be in jail forever, but I am praying for a sentence that allows the victims to heal and encourages Mr. Combs to genuinely change. For all these reasons, I respectfully urge the court to deny his request for early release and to deny his 14-month suggestion. He has been fighting for the truth for the past year, and this ongoing denial is causing additional harm to the mental well-being of the victim. Survivors deserve safety, the public deserves protection, and justice demands accountability. Whoever wrote this, my God, this is some writing. Deontay concludes, mocking Carisha, Judge, this is not a good man. We also have Cassie's letter. Her parents also wrote a letter. I don't know if it's necessary to read both. See what Cassie has to say. Dear Judge, I have been in a cycle of thought and then overthought writing this letter to you. If there is one thing I've learned from this experience, it is that victims and survivors will never be safe. Although I can hope for justice and accountability, I have come to not trust anything. I hope that your decision considers the truth at hand that the jury failed to see. For 4 days in May, while 9 months pregnant with my son, I testified in front of a packed courtroom about the most traumatic and horrifying chapter in my life. I testified that from age 19, Sean Combs used violence, threats, substances, and control over my career to trap me in over a decade of abuse. He controlled every part of my livelihood and threatened to destroy my reputation by leaking sex tapes, a threat he repeated often. His power over me eroded my independence and sense of self until I felt I had no choice but to submit. When he believed I had wronged him or was not sufficiently responsive, he also threatened people around me and those close to me, including my family. I testified how beyond these threats, Sean Combs frequently used violence to get his way. Over the nearly 11 years we were together, Sean Combs would hit me, punch me, stomp on my face, pull my hair, and throw my body to the ground and against the wall. I spent the last 7 years of my life slowly rebuilding myself, physically getting clean from the drug abuse Sean Combs forced and encouraged, and mentally understanding how to live with a seemingly insurmountable level of trauma. The horrors I endured drove me to have thoughts of suicide, ones I almost followed through on if not for my family's intervention and urging that I seek professional care. I still have nightmares and flashbacks on a regular, everyday basis and continue to require psychological care to cope with my past. My worries that Sean Combs or his associates will come after me and my family is my reality. I have in fact moved my family out of the New York area and am keeping as private and quiet as possible because I am so scared that if he walks free, his first actions will be swift retribution towards me and others who spoke up about his abuse at trial. As much progress as I have made in recovering from his abuse, I remain very much afraid of what he is capable of and the malice he undoubtedly harbors towards me for having the bravery to tell the truth. He has no interest in changing or becoming better. He will always be the same cruel, power-hungry, manipulative man that he is. For over a decade, Sean Combs made me feel powerless and unimportant, but my experience was real, horrific, and deserves to be considered. And his sentence should reflect the reality of the evidence and my lived experience as a victim. I am trying with all that I am to move on. I hope that your sentencing decision reflects the strength it took for victims of Sean Combs to come forward. I hope that your decision considers the many lives that Sean Combs has upended with his abuse and control. I thank you for your time and your attention. Cassandra Ventura, Fine. Oh, this is Janice Combs. This is his mom. Dear Judge, my name is Janice Combs, and Sean Combs is my only child. I am writing this letter to implore your honor to please have mercy on my son. Sean has always been a loving and caring son. On December 21st, and I'm not, just FYI, I'm not skipping around. I'm reading this as it's written. On December 21st, I will be 85 years old. This separation for the past year, while Sean has been incarcerated, has been extremely difficult and painful for me and his children. I would like to be able to spend the last few years of my life with my son, Sean. Unfortunately, my son has made some terrible mistakes in his life, which I know he recognizes. Sean was 2 years old when his father passed away, and I raised my son as a single mother. I was also caring for my elderly, ailing mother. I worked 3 jobs to provide my son a good education. I drove a bus from 7 a.m. to 4 p.m. Monday through Friday. Then in the evenings, I worked at the United Cerebral Palsy Home caring for patients. I also worked on the weekends as a salesperson in a clothing store. When my son was 9 years old, tragedy struck the family again. We were informed that my brother had died of a drug overdose, leaving his 5-year-old daughter, Keisha, an orphan. My brother and my niece were my only remaining family members at the time of his death. I suddenly found myself having to adopt my niece to prevent her from going to foster care. Despite all these traumatic experiences, Sean somehow managed to be a good student. He performed well in school and always promised to work hard to provide for me so that I would not have to work 3 jobs ever again. As a teenager, he worked as a newspaper delivery boy and held other after-school jobs to assist with the household expenses. Nothing was really easy for my son growing up. Even when he started making his music, he faced rejection and the clubs would not play his music. They just did not think he was good enough. This did not make my son angry at the world. He kept going, never giving up, until eventually his hard work paid off. He did become very successful. I have to say that I saw how success also came with a tremendous amount of responsibilities, which was sometimes overwhelming. Still, with all that, my son managed to be present for his children, caring, loving, and making sure the children's needs were met and instilling values in them. I also depend on Sean for emotional support. He always looked after my health and well-being. This was crucial as I have no one else to care for me. 4 of his children lost their mother not too long ago. The kids, especially the boys, are still having a very difficult time dealing with the loss of their mother. The loss of their father has been devastating. I will never excuse any wrongdoing committed by Sean. I was always very strict with him growing up. I appeal to the kindness of your heart to allow my son to sit at the dinner table with his family, to allow him to raise his children, and to instill in them the need to be respectful, get an education, and just be God's children with love in their hearts. Please allow my son to be present in his children's lives and be able to answer any questions his children may have, to be able to help them through any difficulties they might encounter in their lives. I beg your honor to let him help them through the healing processes from the loss of their mother and the pain and sleepless nights they have had since Sean's incarceration. My health has deteriorated these last couple of years. I had 2 brain surgeries and monthly follow-ups. I am having a really difficult time controlling my diabetes. My doctor informed me that the diabetes has affected my heart, which may result in a stroke. I don't know how much longer I will be around, but I would love to be able to see him and his children together again. Respectfully, Janice Combs. Jesus, that was sad. I have no idea which way this judge is going to sentence. I think if you've been following me for a while, you can probably guess that I would love to see him get the minimum of 11 years and 3 months. I don't know. I don't know what's going to happen. I do think he's going to get more than just time served. I think it's also important to remember that this is a federal case. The judge could absolutely do, quote and unquote, the right thing and sentence Diddy to a minimum of 11 years in prison. And Trump could more or less immediately pardon him and get him out of jail if he so chose. I don't know what their relationship is currently like. I know that the feds didn't seize Diddy's money. I know that he still owns his Miami home. I do believe he still owns the plane. If he was willing to sell one or both and offer the profits to the president, I mean, it's very clear that our president is pay for play. He could get out. I don't know if that's on the table. I'm just throwing that out there as something that is actually possible. So we'll see what happens on Friday. Ooh, I just read that Mia, who testified at the trial. She worked for Diddy. I think she started off as his assistant and then she rose through the ranks, but she said that he had sexually assaulted her on multiple occasions. Correction. The prosecution has asked the judge to allow her to speak at the sentencing. This should be interesting. This is also not televised. Oh! No, I'm not going to New York. Well, I was planning. Okay, no, bye. Talk probably Friday. Bye.